Last week I was making molten chocolate lava cakes, those little individually sized cakes where you cut into it and it's got a little bit of ooey, warm goodness in the middle that just oozes. And I had one of those moments that comes to me sometimes when I really probably have been cooking too much. And I thought, you know what would be awesome? Is if you could make a red velvet cake with a molten center. I figured it out. It took me a few tries, but I figured it out. So I'm going to show you how to do it. It's really, really simple. And that's probably why I didn't figure it out a little sooner, is because I was trying to make it too complicated. So all I have here is a little white chocolate and a little bit of butter, 6 ounces of each, and I've melted them together. If you're not familiar with working with chocolate, go ahead and use a double boiler, because you can actually burn it or have it seize up on you really easily if you're not used to working with it. I've done it a lot, so I have a tendency to go straight to the stovetop. So to this, all I'm going to do is grab a whisk, and I have right here 1/4 of a cup. It's my puppy. I'm digging on a piece of newspaper. 1/4 cup of cocoa powder. And cocoa powder is actually the only chocolate flavor that's in a red velvet cake. And if you're not familiar with red velvet cake, it's a southern specialty. It's a little cocoa flavor and it's screaming red velvet. And the texture is a little rough. It's usually served with a cream cheese icing. Absolutely out of this world. Alright, so I want to add 1/2 cup of sugar, granulated sugar. We should get nice and thick at this point. Oh yeah. There we go. See what we have? That's good, actually. Alright, now over here in a bowl, I have 2 eggs. I'm just going to give them a quick whiz. And then I'm going to temper the eggs. Now, tempering simply means that you're going to bring one element up in temperature, closer to the temperature of the other element. In this case, we have very warm chocolate. And if we add these two together, we're going to scramble the eggs, and it's going to be really nasty. What we want to do is completely incorporate the eggs so that they will help give our cakes lift. But we have to do a certain way. What we're going to do is take a little of our chocolate sludge, just a little bit, that whisk, and we're going to incorporate it a little at a time. And what this does is it raises the temperature of the beaten eggs a little at a time without scrambling them, because that would just nasty. Bleh. I've had that. I've had desserts that had been incorrectly, the eggs hadn't been dealt with correctly. You get that funky little bit in there? That's not nice. You don't want that. Alright, so once you've got about half of your chocolate in there, let me give it one more time. Look here. Now see what's happening here? See how our batter has become very smooth? That's nice. We want that. Alright, once you've got about half of your chocolate in, go ahead and just plop the rest of it in there and whisk it all together. Perfect. Now, at this point, we're going to do a couple things. I'm going to put just a pinch of salt. I always use salt in my desserts. Almost always. I can't think of one where I wouldn't, but I'm sure I have. Salt just simply makes everything taste more like itself. So the chocolate will be more intense, the sugars will be more intense, and the flavoring that we're going to add is going to be more intense. What I have is orange extract, and you can leave this out if you don't like it, or you can use vanilla if you want to. First time I did this was a mistake. I really thought I was grabbing the red food coloring. I realized it was the orange extract, and I realized that I could probably go ahead and bake it, that it wouldn't have a structural component to it. The flavor was amazing. The cocoa and the orange, it was like what an orange Tootsie Roll wishes it could be. So that was about a teaspoon. You can use more or less. This is just simple red food coloring, traditional in a red velvet cake. And what you're after is an intensely red color. And actually, I'm going to grab a little more red food coloring. In these particular little cakes, you want it to look like somebody's just, you know, done some serious mayhem in your kitchen. The cocoa that we added does make it hard for the red food coloring to take. Now, this is just off the grocery store shelf. If you're lucky enough to be around like a, if you've got a craft store, or if you've got a cake goods specialty store, and you can get paste food coloring, you can use just a tiny bit of the paste food coloring instead of this, which is diluted with an alcohol. There we go. That's what we're after. See? We're getting scarlet. And it's going to show up more when we put our last ingredient in. And all this is 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour. Whoop, here we go. Let me tell you, I can make a mess in the kitchen. And you see when everything's all whisked together, and that took us, I don't know, 5 minutes. You've got a smooth dough, batter. This is a batter. With a really wonderful bright red color. Okay, and you can, if you have the paste food coloring, I don't put more of the regular off the grocery store shelf coloring in there, because it does have an alcohol component. That's what the coloring is dissolved in, and it can leave an off taste if you put too much in it. I don't want to taste food coloring. I want to taste cocoa. All right, all I have here are 4 little ramekins. Y'all can't tell I use these little ramekins for everything. And I have buttered the inside of them pretty generously. Probably a good tablespoon of butter just to butter the ramekins. And the reason is you're going to have those little cakes release completely when they come out of the oven. I'll show you why in a minute. But don't skimp on the butter when you butter up your little ramekins. And I'm just putting this batter evenly into the 4. Is that about right? I got one that's a little skimpy. Let's see if I can fix him real quick. I also have my oven preheated to 400 degrees. And you know what? Somebody asked me last week. They said, you always give your temperatures as one thing, but your oven shows something else. Well, let me tell you. I realized that this oven would give one temperature, but it didn't cook at that temperature. And it's actually about 25 to 50 degrees off. So I bought a little $4 oven thermometer at the discount store. That's how I calibrate my oven temperature. So you want 400 degrees. Do what I say, not what I do. Mine says 425. You don't want that. 400. All right, so these are going to go in the preheated oven. Just like that. We're going to give them 14 minutes. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll be back to show you what they look like.